Hi everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. Today is Tag Tuesday, so I'm doing the nonfiction on BookTube Tag. This was originally done by Olive at abookolive, the hostess with the mostess of Nonfiction November. So let's just go ahead and do that because I am taking part this month. Alright, so the first question is how much nonfiction do you read? Now, get ready for something really shocking because this year I have read exactly 5 nonfiction books, and taken as a whole, of my 66 books I've read this year, that makes the percentage 8% if you round up. Last year I read more. I read 20 for a 22% of my total reading. And then in 2017, I read 41 nonfiction books for a grand total of about 35% of my total reading. And yeah, that is the unvarnished truth about that. Question 2. What kind of nonfiction videos do you make or want to make on BookTube? As for the videos that I've already made, I do believe there's a nonfiction bookshelf tour that I did in the past. I still have most of those books. I've added some since then. And mostly, other than that, it's nonfiction November related. When I did read nonfiction, I don't typically do individual reviews for books. They're usually a part of wrap-ups or Friday reads. For the future, I definitely like to be making more nonfiction videos, if only by the result of me reading more nonfiction. Yeah, that's the answer to that. Question 3 is, what's your favorite genre, subgenre of nonfiction? So ever since, I don't remember when this was. I think it was like in the 2000s sometime. PBS put on, they did this series based on The Elegant Universe by Brian Greene. And ever since then, I've been obsessed. Well, not obsessed. I haven't read a single one this year, which discounts the whole obsession thing. But ever since then, some of my favorite books have been about physics, specifically quantum physics, string theory, and then there's that one by Carlo Rovelli about loop quantum gravity that I really liked. So yeah, science and physics of various varieties is the short answer. Well, not so short answer for that. Number 4, do you have a favorite nonfiction book? If I only had to pick one, you're gonna have to bear with me on this, the subtitle for this book is gigantic. The Disappearing Spoon, and Other True Tales of Madness, Love, and the History of the World from the Periodic Table of Elements by Sam Keen. It is an absolutely massively long subtitle. Yeah, this book is really good. It has a lot of good information, and I would just say it's very conversational. And it's not just all science. It's like the story of the Lewis and Clark expedition and how they're able to track that based on the Mercury capsules they left behind, let's just say. And this high school kid who almost gets arrested for trying to get uranium for his at-home nuclear fission machine or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a good story. Yeah, and so he takes this construct, the periodic table, and then you get so many stories that branch out in so many different directions. It's just a wonderful story. Anyway, so I'm just gonna stop telling you what's in it and just say, go read it, it's good. Yeah, and if I had to have if I get to have runners up, It would be A Really Big Lunch, Tales, Meditations of Food and Life from the Roving Gourmand, which is by the novelist Jim Harrison, and it's so good. It's just it's laugh out loud. If you can get past his sense of humor, which is, you know, it is what it is. And then Just Kids by Patti Smith, which I absolutely love, and I'm gonna have to reread next year. More on that at some point in the future. Question 5 is, what do you think keeps people from wanting to read more nonfiction? Well, I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say it reminds them too much of school. I mean, it doesn't stop me because I loved school and yeah. So having something remind me of school doesn't really put me off things. It just gets pushed out by other things, you know, that are easier to take in. The truth is that I enjoy reading nonfiction pretty much, but I still find myself spending like time on the phone playing Words with Friends instead of reading, you know? So, I mean, it's easy thing to do. All right, so question number 6 is, why do you like nonfiction? Well, mainly because I am curious and nosy about stuff, and because reading is my favorite way of taking in information. I could watch documentaries if I wanted to, but I watch movies maybe 10 times a year. Number 7 is, what is a nonfiction book you read because of BookTube? There are quite a few nonfiction books I've read because of BookTube. One is Cork Dork by Bianca Bosker. That was a book that was recommended by Olive. As well as Cannibalism, A Perfectly Natural History by Bill Shutt, which is also recommended by Olive. Those were both very good. And I thought there's just so much information about, just so much good information in those books. And then The Evangelicals, The Struggle to Shape America by Frances Fitzgerald. I read that, I started that last November, and then it took me a couple of months to finish it because that thing is huge. That was really enlightening about stuff that's gone on in the past and that stuff, you know, that's still going on. I think it's I think it's an important book to, if you really wanted to get a handle of what's going on politically. I think it's important. So question 8 is, what's the best nonfiction book you've read lately? More of an essay, but it's in book form. It is Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. I just finished that today, and it's so good. And still relevant, despite the fact that it's 90 years old. Which I'm pretty sure this was 29. Was it 1929? Yep, 1929. Yeah, just the way she looks at this topic, which is women in fiction, is so interesting, and she has her own perspective because she is a writer. And yeah, I'll discuss more of this later in a separate video. But yeah, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf was excellent. Question 9 is, what's the best nonfiction? Oh, that is still question 8. Question 9, what are some of your nonfiction reading goals? I have two big ones for the next year coming up. The first one would be to get my percentage back up closer to 35%. I think that's a good percentage for me because my fiction TBR is way larger than my nonfiction TBR. And I want to work on them in the right proportions. And then my second is to reread some of my favorites. I'm going to have a project for that coming up next year. I'm going to have TBRs for rereads. because I've reread basically nothing, maybe one book I've reread, like Pride and Prejudice, I think is the only book I've reread this year. And that bumps me out because I enjoy rereading a lot. All right, so question number 10 is, what's your advice for incorporating more nonfiction into your reading diet? I would say just find books about stuff that you like. If you enjoy watching the TV show Friends, there's plenty. There are at least two books that have come out in the last couple of years about Friends. I just read, and it was pretty good, I'll Have What She's Having, which is about the 3 big movies that were written and or directed by Nora Ephron, starting in '89 with When Harry Met Sally, and the backstory into those and how they changed the rom-com. That was very interesting, and it was about movies, well, 2 movies that I really love, and 1 movie, Sleepless in Seattle, that I watched once and never thought of again. But yeah. So I'd say, start with stuff that you like. There's no need, if you want to get into more fiction, you don't have to start at the deep end. You can start in the shallow end and make your way down that way. I also would recommend audiobooks, if that's how if you like audiobooks. Some people get distracted with audiobooks, so they don't take in as much. I'm not like that. And also, if I have like a physical copy or an ebook of a copy, I like to bookmark sections and then go back and look at the written one and then make my notes there, and then it helps with my retention. Another thing I would say is start broad. Not necessarily large. One of my books on my TBR for Nonfiction November is American Jezebel, The Uncommon Life of Anne Hutchinson, the Woman Who Defied the Pilgrims, by Eve LaPlante. And last year I read God, War, and Providence about Roger Williams. These were both characters, well, people that were pilgrims / Puritans, and I first found out about those people in this book, Sarah Vowell, The Wordy Shipmates, which is about the settlers from England and what they got up to. This is fairly short, and if you listen to the audiobook, there are sections where people are, where when you're quoting people, say like John Winthrop, right? John Winthrop is read by, I don't know if it's by this person exactly, but like Conan O'Brien. So you get individual voices for the people, and it may be people you actually know. So if you want to get started, like, this is by no means the last word on it, obviously, but if you want an in, I think those are really good ways to go. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So yeah, that is the nonfiction on BookTube tag. I'm not going to tag anybody because I think most of the people who are going to do this have already done it. But if you have any comments to make on my answers, or if you want to put your 2 cents in, please feel free to do so in the comments box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.